What's going on? This is Steve Hungarter. You know me as the IDP Hunter. For this episode, I'm going to be doing defensive tackles. Anybody in your league that can make the interior lineman assignment. We're going to go through the top 25 defensive tackles in this draft class. It's better than you think this year, and it's not being talked about enough. As you guys know, I work for the RPO Football Network, which is the #1 accuracy site out there for IDP. It's been not 1 but 2 years now. But I also work for a site called the Fantasy Six Pack. And over there at the Fantasy Six Pack, they have award-winning rankings. Let me show you what we're actually cooking up over there. Let me show you what we've been working on, okay? Over there at the Fantasy Six Pack, in addition to having all different brands of sports, all different games here you can play. It's one of the most accurate sites as well. We're top 10 IDP, a top 10 in golf, top 10 in baseball. The owner, Joe Bond, he's #2 in fantasy football per Fantasy Pros. So just check this out, this site that we have here. Right now, we're doing a promotion. A lot of our stuff's on the site for free. You can find my article, Combine Cheat Codes. And in that Combine Cheat Codes article, it shows you some of the things I look for, some of the things scouts look for, some of that advanced metrics. Right now, a couple of us over there at the Fantasy Six Pack, we did a rookie magazine. We profiled over 300 players, and I'm going to give you a taste of some of those players, a little sample size of them on this episode. But go ahead and check it out. I believe it's right now not behind the firewall, so it should be free for owners to look at least until before the combine. So, yeah, by all means, check out our draft guide over there at the Fantasy Six Pack. Without further ado, I'm going to go into my thought process and explain my rationale. First off, I just want to let you guys know I included a wide range of players for this podcast. I broke down the interior lineman into 3 categories. First, anybody who played nose guard. 2, obviously, anybody who plays defensive tackle. But I'm also including defensive ends that play 3-4 schemes. You know, those that engage blockers or they play from an interior role. In your leagues, regardless of the platform, all of which are going to either have the DL indicator or the DT indicator. So that's what I'm going to do this episode. For people that are curious about this draft class, I know edge has a lot of people popular right now, and I know linebacker is very popular right now, but defensive tackle is getting quite overlooked. I'm comfortable going about 15 deep now. We're going to profile 25 of these guys. Some of them are role players. Maybe after top 15, 16, there's a little bit of a drop-off. But let me read a stat to you guys first, okay? I don't know if you have watched the Edge episode that I did, where I said if you want a cheat code, you look at 2 things with an edge rusher. You look at the sacks, and you look at tackles for loss because it shows he can penetrate. Those 2 stats correlate. Well, I actually have 2 stats that correlate for interior linemen. First stat I look at is highest pass rush rate. If you got a guy who's winning, not only is he getting stats, getting production, but he's also disrupting the offensive line. He's disrupting those passing rhythms. He's collapsing the pocket. A pass rush win rate, one that's high, actually matters because it's forcing the quarterback to roll out of the pocket, and usually 1 or 2 things is happening. He's either throwing incompletions or this guy's interior lineman teammate is making a big play. We got a lot of guys in this draft class that can just get off there to passer rusher, man. Let me just read to you the highest pass rusher rates that I've seen in this draft class. 18.9, Norman-Lott out of Tennessee. 17.7%, Aeneas Peebles. 17.6, Derek Harmon out of Oregon. 14.3, Riley Mills, Notre Dame, one of my sleepers. And 13.9, Darnell Jackson Jr., Florida State University. Guys, this is probably the best class I've ever seen as far as interior rookies go. And these guys here are among the cutting edge with that metric. But I wanted to pull one more out. I know I'm running a little long here. Before we get started here, I wanted to pull one more metrics out to you. It's called the True Pass Set. It's a pure pressure metrics. This is a PFF stat only, and I use it in a lot of my writing over at the Six Pack and over at RPO Network. When you're looking at a true pass set, it's similar to the pass win rate that I just showed you, but it takes in all the trivial things like the screens, the passes, the screen pass, the bootlegs, the play actions, the rollouts, all that stuff's removed. This is just a true, from a perspective of clean pocket, can this guy get inside and win his matchups? So just to give you a couple facts here, notable interior defensive lineman stats from this draft class. I'm going to let you know before I start going that an above average win rate in the NFL is about 10%. So these are the true pass rush rates of this draft class. Omar Norman-Lott again, 30.8. Derek Harmon, 26.5. Netus Peebles, 25.5. TJ Sanders, 21.2. Mason Graham, 20.8. Darius Alexander, 20.4. Riley Mills, 18.9. Walter Nolan, 18.8. Alfred Collins, 15.5. Kenneth Grant, 15.1. Deion Walker, 14.7. Tyleik Williams, 10.8. That's the majority of the class above average. So I think this class is going to rip people's heads off. Okay. All the talk aside here, I should probably pull up some stuff for you guys here. Your first guy in this draft class, don't think it's too much of a reach. I think everybody knows who Mason Graham is at this point, right? Mason Graham out of Michigan. Huge prospect, right? Hits all the metrics. Let me go to stuff that I like about him. When you're watching his tape, he wins multiple ways. He handles double teams well. You see that in footage. For those on Spotify, welcome in. For those on iHeartRadio or Apple Podcasts, welcome in. I'm literally on YouTube. I'm pulling up just some plays for some of these players, some of the most noticeable things. So you're just going to have to take my word for it. You're going to have to check out the YouTube channel. Notice how Mason Graham collapses the pocket on these passing downs. That's what you want out of your defensive tackle. You want somebody who's not only good in the strong run game, but you want somebody that can blast off and make the sacks. He's a former high school wrestler. You'll notice a correlation with this position. Guys that can wrestle, they're really good at block shedding. They're really good at being explosive. A lot of times they're really good with their hands and footwork. This guy's the total package from the inside. And, it doesn't hurt that he has 5 sacks, 12.9% win rate, 34 pressures, and 30 defensive stops. So that's my number one in this draft class. I don't think anyone else has that different. He's in a tier by himself. He's tier 1. For my tier 2 group, though, I kind of have 3 guys in this tier, and they're not exactly shocking, except for the 4th one. I'm going to move him up, and I'll explain my rationale in a second. But the guy I want to kind of show you for your DL2 in this interior draft class, this is going to be Walter Nolan out of Kentucky. I really like some of the film that I got to see on him. For starters, when you look at Nolan, he just gets inside and he wins either way, wherever you're going to put him. Let me just give you some Walter Nolan fun facts. Before he transferred, he was at Texas A&M, and he was one of the top prospects in the country. He's a former 5-star recruit. He has a 91.1 grade in run defense. SEC's top run defender, hands down. For 2 seasons at Texas A&M, while he was there, he generated 32 pressures. Well, guess what? Transferred to Ole Miss this year, as you can see on the film. He had 35 pressures this season alone. So he did better than what he did the last 2 seasons. That's crazy, right? Let's look at some of his advanced stats, though. He's got a 90.4% win rate. That's decent. 32 defensive stops, 35 pressures, 12.5 tackles, 6.5 sacks. With the strong running ability and the decent enough pass rush, he should get there. He's one of these guys as a top talent. He should excel as he moves up. Next level. You can see a lot out of this guy next level, moving up, producing. He's gonna have to clean up a little bit of this, but for the most part, he's an NFL role player right now, ready to go. For your DL3, moving along kind of quick here. It's kind of why I'd like to do this episode by myself, just so I can kind of get all these names and all these prospects out there. We have a Kenneth Graham for this one. With Kenneth Grant, though, he's teammates with Mason, right? Mason Graham. With Kenneth Grant, not only is he a matching bookend on the other side, and he complements Graham very well, he has his own abilities in his own right. He shared Defensive Player of the Week honors 7 times. 7. And he helped the Michigan program go undefeated, and win. When's the last time they won undefeated? He's an interesting prospect. He's predicted to run a 4.5 at 339 pounds. 4.5 at 339 pounds. I got to see this at the combine. I don't know if I've seen that ever. 339 pound, 4.5 guy running down sidelines. Anyway, it should be interesting. 29 pressures. He doesn't really anchor in the middle that great, but that's okay. Put him against somebody who does. Put him next to. Can't push the offensive line back is my only concern with him, but he can generate his own push. He can generate his own pass rush. He's still one of your top prospects in the whole entire draft. Now, as crazy as this sounds, I put him as my DT4. Okay, the guy that I'm talking about, most people have him as their 8. I have him as my 4th defensive lineman here. Deion Walker, he's 6'6". Most sites have him way lower. I'm kind of higher on him. It's a loaded interior draft class too, as you already know. You look at his profile, he can really fill in. He really has that boom. He recorded 22 pressures, 20 stops. He's got a 9.9% win rate. He managed just 4 sacks. Maybe that's why people are a little bit lower on him. But he stands at 6'6". He's a towering frame, right? He might seem like a disadvantage against offensive linemen, but he really relies on his leverage, and he relies on his footwork and his speed to make plays, which is something that you just can't teach next level. Earlier this year, he was projected to go first round, but there were a little bit of concerns in his production as it dropped off. But again, I don't chase production with players. Again, I'm looking at when the interior, it's so fluky, especially sacks are so fluky. I'm looking at win rates. I'm looking at stuff that the guy can do. Keep in mind, too, reports suggest that he played through injury this season, but, you can't deny his ability for size and raw ability. It's going to make him a valuable prospect. I don't think many people think highly of him right now, but he's my 4, and he's going to be the last of my tier 2 players. When we see the combine and we see how the NFL drafts, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets shot up a lot of people's boards. Moving on to tier 3. There's about 4 guys in this tier, so we're going to go from player DL4 all the way to DL7. Everyone covets these guys as their top prospects one way or another. This one will say it's this guy. This one will say it's this guy. You could just beat the brakes off of everyone's hot takes this year. Who's this guy? Who's his top lineman? Is he going to beat their top lineman? He generally does. So any one of these guys from 4 to 7, any given week, any college football player, any college football fan is going to tell you that this is their guy. Any one of them can blow up the combine too. So this tier is really separated by just who you like better. Any one of these guys has either 5-star prospect ability, or they're massive, or they're just freakishly strong. DL4 I'm going to give you is Tyleik Williams. And this is another guy. He's 6'3", kind of neat player to have that you're looking at. Tyleik is very interesting to me as well. I'm just going to show some of his Iowa tape. Okay. With his Iowa tape, you can already see it. He's there. He's making all these big plays. He's got the push, right? The problem is with him is, though, he kind of disappears in games sometimes. Scouts are all over the place with this player. I'm convinced just on this tape alone, if you watch it with me here, he's got the ability to shed blocks. So eventually he's going to get those big sacks. But shedding blocks equals you're going to make big run plays, as you just seen on the tape. Sometimes he's a little bit hesitant as a pass rusher. I will say this. He's probably the lowest of the pass rush win rates amongst all the top prospects that I've already talked about. But again, he plays the 3 technique, so I'm not going to hold that against him. He's got 20 pressures and 22 defensive stops. Just 3 sacks this year, that's a concern. He'll need a little more polish, especially with that pass rate, rush win rate. And then the other one, 7.3%. I don't know if you could do better than that. But again, he's a 3 technique player. If that's what you're looking for, teams next level are gonna enjoy that. And again, he's our DL5. Moving on to DL6, I'm gonna give you another 6'3" prospect. Some people have this guy a bit higher. His name is Shamir Turner. So with Shamir Turner, he's another one of those prospects that people aren't quite sure how they want to describe him. When you pull up some of his film, it's harder to factor in where he's going to play. He can be moved on the inside. He can play the 0 tech. He can play the 1 tech. Either way, I would just say to you guys, if you're just getting to know Shamir Turner, he's 6'3". He's a former 5-star recruit. He works best out of double teams, if that makes sense. So he's like one of those guys. He's just a space eater. So I think, in my opinion, he probably excels at 3-4 nose guard. He's gonna have to polish a lot of his game next level, but he is a pretty exciting player. He really is. In this tier now coming up, I have 2 DTs, 6 and 7, and I'm torn how I want to rank them. I'll let you decide who you like better. You can leave me in the comments which one you prefer. So we're going to call this like a little mini tier. I got Derek Harmon and I got TJ Sanders. They both stand at 6'5", but they are different players. For Harmon, he's more of that impressive physical specimen. Like when he stands there, you know he looks every bit of his 6'5". He transferred from Florida State, where he was a top prospect, and he transferred to Oregon to play more. They moved him a little inside, though, when he got transferred. Their undefeated season, number 1 seed, it showed that it was him that was really helping these guys produce. He was a very good leader, inspiration on the field. You can see he gained weight. He got a lot bigger this year, which affected his tackling ability. He does penetrate well, just like the last player we said. He's a space eater. This year he got 55 pressures, 25 defensive stops, and a 17.6% win rate. Sometimes, depending on what scout you talk to, his tackling's a little bit suspect, but I didn't see anything in the tape that would hinder his draft stock to me. So I'm on board with him or TJ Sanders. With TJ, though, TJ is a bit of a different kind of player. As I said, yeah, he's 6'5", but what makes TJ a little more interesting is he is very muscular. He's more of he more gets by with his strength, if anything else. You can see it on some of this film. He will just push and throw away an offensive lineman. He'd be a neat Madden player, you know. He's more like an underdog, gritty kind of player. Strong as an ox, as I already said. What I like about TJ is his pass rush rate has improved every bit of the 3 seasons that he's played. You look at some of the advanced stats on him, 12.9% pass rush win rate, 22 pressure undersized. I know it sounds funny to say, but 6'5", 291. Produced 5 sacks. I like him. Like I said, I'm going to put him in here as one of my top guys here. A 6 or a 7, maybe 8. 8 probably feels more about right for him. Moving on to this next tier, I got a bunch of guys. 2 of my favorite sleepers are coming up. Senior Bowl Warriors. You're going to hear me say that a lot. This podcast, this guy blew up at the Senior Bowl. This guy blew up at the Senior Bowl. But for my DT9, I have Darius Alexander. Where do I want to start with him? When I first got to see him, it was down there in Alabama. At the Senior Bowl when he was playing, he did this move where he just threw an offensive lineman like they're a rag doll in practice. I did a short on my YouTube channel if you guys want to check that out. But if that wasn't enough for you, he was named the defensive lineman of the week during the Senior Bowl. Now, what's funny about that award, it's not the coaches, it's not the beat writers that vote on that award. It's the offensive lineman that he practiced against. So Darius Alexander has my vote of confidence, as well as all the offensive linemen that are down there. The only knock on him is he's a 6-year player. But if you guys ever get a chance to read my dynasty age list for IDP players, defensive tackles, we want them a little bit older. We want that old man strength. But he's coming in the NFL a little bit older. He's got great measurables. He'll be 26, in fact, by the time he gets there. But this position does age a little bit better, So he's got pretty good PFF grades, too. 12.8% win rate, 7.9% run stop rate. He may transition next level to another position. I can see that happening, too. But the combine should showcase his measurables. And again, I have him as a 9, so I expect some top talent here. People probably getting some buzz on him. And if Darius Alexander didn't excite you, Riley Mills certainly will. This is my other sleeper in this draft class. I have them both as fun prospects that'll probably shoot up the draft boards on where I'm ranking them. He's going to end up on many, many people's sites as their top 10 once they start noticing who he is. All you got to do is go and look at his tape against Florida, and you'll be convinced. He was a dominant run stopper, dominant defensive lineman. He shows up at the combine with some of that athletic ability that I think he has. He's projected to run like a 4.7, 7.9 40-yard dash. So he's a big time defender. Moving on to tier 5. I don't have any tape on these guys, and I'll go through them quick. I got 6 players in my tier 5. Okay. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we'll do them all pretty quick here. I like to call this the yeah, but category. They're good. Yeah, but hey, this guy's great, but I got there's some things that are nitpicks that may come out next level, or they just may excel above the situation. So I have a little hesitation putting these guys any higher, and I'm sure I'm going to get drugged for this one. But DT11 here, Alfred Collins, he's a former 5-star recruit, and he played on a loaded Texas team. But here comes the yeah, but he ended up being just part of the rotation. That was it. Despite this obstacle, though, he did have 27 run stops, 7.3% win rate, 7.3. Okay. You see all the other guys in this list do a little bit better, but the talent's there. That's undeniable. And I think there's plenty of football untapped with this guy. It's just he had a hard time getting in the rotation, getting the snaps that he needed. There's still a lot to do as a pass rusher, as you can see with the 7.3% win rate. But that I'm hesitant that will pass him. But again, I can't deny the opportunity this guy has. You're going to hear this next name a lot, DT12. Omar. Look at this guy. Remember the 2 metrics in the beginning, the win pass rush rate and the true pass sets? He's number 1 in whatever you call him upon. And again, I just want to mention this again. We said it earlier in this podcast. His interior true pass rush win rate is 30.8% per PFF. If there's anybody that's going to shoot up this board during the draft, if it's not Riley Mills, if it's not Darius Alexander, it's going to be Omar Norman-Lott. Those are my 3 sleepers in this draft class. I don't have many top picks during my drafts, so these are probably the 3 guys that I'm targeting. DT13, CJ West. He's probably the last of the real big names. I have a little bit lower than most, I think. Let's talk about him. He transferred a few times before, the Big Ten. The tape at Ohio State tells a different story. He got a lot of tackles, and if you miss a lot of tackles as a defensive tackle, you're not going to get on the field much, right? That seems to be a trend on this list as we move down. There's a lot of guys with high upside, but they're just not good tacklers. Moving on to DT14, Jamari Caldwell. People have this guy a little bit lower. I feel like DT14 is about right. He didn't have a sack this season, but hear me out. Having no sacks, that only tells one part. Go back 2 full seasons when he had his 6.5 breakout season when he played at Houston in 2023. At the Senior Bowl practices, I got to see up close. We got to witness how quickly he got off the line of scrimmage. And that's what I want to see. So the talent's definitely there. Oregon, his role kind of changed. It kind of shifted. He plays more of a 2-gap kind of clog. I'm going to eat blocks kind of player. That's what's so flimsy about defensive tackles. You really don't know what you're going to get. So the team scheme could kill you, So landing spots, you're going to see what a lot of these players are going to make or break them. But I kind of like him as a 3-tech player. Heck, you might even be able to get away with the 5-tech and the 3-4 front. But I can see him traditionally as a 3-tech and a 4-3 scheme. He does have the ability to be a 0-tech nose guard. I don't see that, but I'm not a scout either. So it all depends what a scout wants out of him. But he's a player you can see on a lot of rosters filling in, helping out, next level. DT15, Jordan Phillips. He's got that NFL roll right away kind of frame, kind of body. He's a younger player. He's got nose guard experience. Scouts going to be licking their chops at him. But here it comes. He's a little bit slow as a pass rusher, but a great run defender. You know what else he got? He's got that cheat code, that former wrestling background. It's like the former wrestling background for defensive tackles. It's kind of like what tight ends have with the basketball background. You know what I mean? But these former wrestlers tend to do well. They're first pass rushers, as I said in the beginning. They can shed blocks, whatever. I can see him doing pretty well, and I see him falling in our fantasy drafts. DT16 is Joshua Farmer. Joshua Farmer can play the 3-tech. He can play the 5-tech. He has to clean up a lot of his mental mistakes next level. He makes a lot of mental mistakes wrapping up tackles in the run game. He's decent as a pass rusher, though. 9.4 pass rush rate. It's where we have him here. It's why I got him up here at 16. He did not have much around him this year, so maybe we'll give him a mulligan. But he has good enough strength, so if he can clean up the run defense, which I would like to think a coach can clean that up next level, he should be a good player. DT17, Yaya Black. I'm going to take a shot on Yaya Black. In addition to having a neat name, he can play the 1-tech and the 3-tech. He provides value for teams because he's 317 pounds as an interior run defender. Get this. He's got an 8.7% missed tackle rate. So teams are going to go nuts over that. That via kind of role. I can see him just clogging up the middle and stopping some runs, okay? Where are we at now? We're all the way down to 18. Let me give you my DT19, JJ Peaks. He's a former tight end. converted to defensive tackle. Guys, there is a lot of correlation with offensive players coming over to IDP and doing very, very well. You'll see that it's a trend in some of my other videos. But he's a developmental pass rusher, limited moves, excels in pursuit around the field. What do you expect? We're down to 19 defensive tackles here. When I get to 20, there's a guy named Howard Cross. He is the definition of a landing spot player to me. Landing spot and scheme is going to make or break and dictate his value. He's quicker than he looks, though. He's what you would call a penetrating gap defender. I like him as a 4-3, maybe a multiple front kind of 4-3, maybe situational passer. Some scouts, some profiles that I've seen written up on him, they see more. I guess to kind of, if you size up Howard Cross here, he's a great penetrator, and especially from the interior, guys like that, scouts like that. So he's my DT20. How are we doing so far? We got a lot of players here, all of which have been very interesting. These next couple landing spots are going to dictate. That's pretty much going to be their game moving forward. DT21, Tonka Hemingway. How's that for a name? Tonka Hemingway. He lines up multiple positions and he has a high football IQ, but he struggles to get off blocks. And as you can already guess, he has tackling concerns. That's why they're down here so low. DT22, Cameron Jackson. I have friends of mine that swear by this guy, and it's true. He's a consistent run defender, and he's able to adapt, learn concepts well, but understanding gap usage and maybe some coaching next level is going to have to happen. DT23, Darnell Jackson, as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, he's got a 13.9% win rate, but everything else needs to be fixed up. So that's why I got him down so low as 23. Some honorable mentions. These guys here, I'm going to give you two more this episode. I'm not quite sure that they're going to be defensive tackles. They're more likely to play edge. So just keep that in mind. If they're edges, their ranking is going to go all the way up the board. If they're defensive tackles, they're going to be somewhere in here. I can't actually call it until we see how these teams want to scheme them. So these honorable mentions, they're not exactly 24 and 25 because I think they're really good prospects. I just don't know how to place them on this draft, in this ranking draft class podcast. So DT24, Elijah Roberts out of SMU. This is an odd one. Technically, he's considered defensive end. You'll see stuff written up. But as I told you in the beginning, he plays a 3-4 defensive line position. So he's probably going to get lumped with the interior guys. He's probably going to have that DT, DE indicator next level. You can exploit this if you're in an MFL league and you're on other platforms. If people don't know who Elijah Roberts is, if you were to grade him on edge, he would be the 7th best in pressure amongst all the edge rushers in the 2025 edge class. That's why I'm saying he's kind of down here, slept so well, because I don't know where to put him. Only had 7.5 sacks, but he only played 13 games as well. So he did have 11 tackles for a loss. So Elijah Roberts is going to be on somebody's radar somewhere. I just don't know where to rank them. Just like my next player, I don't know where to rank them, and I haven't put them on any of my podcasts this year. So just consider him as an honorable mention. Previously, Jordan Birch as well. I think I put him on with the edges. He's probably going to play edge, defense tackle. I'm not sure. The last player I want to talk about. He made Bruce Fieldman's freak list. If you ever read that, it's an interesting article. This is what Fieldman wrote about this guy. The 6'2" player has added a dozen pounds or so and is now up to 276, but still he hit 19.9 miles an hour on the GPS. The vertical jump is 36 inches. He power cleans 390, but his strength coach says he can put up 405 pounds. Now, how's that to end my list? Okay. Now, if you haven't guessed who the player is yet, it's because I haven't told you. And his name is Walker Gillette. So if you're interested in that player, pick him up. He's going to be a great edge position next level or interior lineman. I'm just not sure which position that he ends up playing. So just keep that in consideration with those last couple guys that I gave you. I just don't know where they're going to land. That's why I have them so low. Any one of those guys would be great. Any one of those guys I would probably put higher. But again, with Gillette, I'm just not sure where they're going to put him. Same thing with the other guy. So this kind of completes my podcast. This is all I wanted to get out. I did this a little quicker than I expected. Maybe I should do a lot more podcasts by myself. I don't know. But just so many players, so much intrigue, especially with interior defensive linemen. We just don't know where they're going to fall. So just keep all that in consideration when draft time comes, combine comes. The purpose of these drafts are to kind of just let you know who the player is, where the players fall, what to look for, what I look for. And again, with DTs in the NFL, it might not be what you want in your drafts. You might not want to run the fender. You might not want a tackle. NFL coaches might, hence they're probably going to get a little bit higher up the board. But we want those sacks, or we want that high energy stats. So pay attention to when PFF puts out their win pass rush rates, or ESPN. ESPN does it too. I just want to go back to one more time, guys, before I end this show. Again, you keep watching these. I'll keep making these. But I want you to look at Joe Bond's NFL draft guide. We got over 300 players in here, and I just gave you a taste tonight of what to look for. When you're looking at interior defensive linemen, there's so many players this year. It goes super deep. And guess what? Edge does too. And you offensive guys out there, you already know that running back does. Oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. It's Ashton Gillette. Yep. He's my last player on the list. But again, guys, check out this. Don't let me tell you anything different. You check out the podcast. You check out the Rookie magazine. You keep watching. We'll keep making these. And I don't have anything else this episode. Rock hard.